welcome back to another episode of the Anime Club. Nick Nack is retrieving a Furby. Are you done with us yet?
I'm spending my day off here. I just want you all to know
Only
that
the evening.
I work graveyard, so you understand what I'm saying here.
Look, fam, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
It's worse things I could be doing.
Yeah, like watching Keijo.
When we watched Keijo, we were laughing our asses off.
Oh no,
okay?
Keijo is unironically amazing.
Sure.
It's definitely something.
But we're not here to talk about Keijo today, although I have a feeling we're going to derail this in the next section. We watched another Studio Ghibli movie. You guys will have already seen one, and you're going to see another after this. But today we watched Kiki's Delivery Service. Kiki's Delivery Service is a 1989 Studio Ghibli movie done by Hayao Miyazaki.
Obviously.
Of course.
I fucked up.
What? What you mean you fucked up?
It's an absolute tangent. We can get on it later, or we can get on with what we want to talk about now.
Well, now I want to know. What you fuck up, boy?
So, the viewers will be able to absolutely tell there was a bit of a out of orderness here.
Yeah.
Because in the first two videos, I didn't have a haircut. I had a haircut since the first two videos.
I think you overestimate how closely our viewers are paying attention. Not a single person yet has commented on the fact that my hair is a completely different color.
Maybe they're all colorblind like me.
Oh my god, your hair is a different color.
That was the most fucking contrived.
I just wanted to make you feel better about it.
I'm
here to help.
I feel more insulted now somehow.
So that's what I'm here for.
That's fair. That's fair. It's Bully Seki Day.
When is it not? Seems to be a running theme with your content. Anyway, so when was this translated in this?
So the Disney version came out. The Disney version came out in the late 90s, I think.
Oh.
Let me double check. So, Disney's 1997 dub released in 1998, featuring Kirsten Dunst and Phil Hartman as Gigi. Kirsten Dunst playing Kiki, obviously.
Phil Hartman, R.I.P.
Yeah. Nick Nack and I were not aware of the story behind that, but we now are. But yeah, so, oh, cool. So it released posthumously.
What the hell does that mean?
It means it released after he died, officially.
Ah, that's when I heard late 90s.
Yeah,
I kind of went,
and was dedicated to his memory.
Yeah, so it was released after Phil Hartman unfortunately died.
Yeah, at least the official DVD VHS release. I think officially the International Film Festival release was a month or two before he died, but the actual DVD VHS release was after.
Do you guys know when exactly it was that Miyazaki films started being shown in theaters? Well, I mean, like, in American theaters.
So it was never shown in American theaters.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But, like, when did Miyazaki movies start? Was it Howl's Moving... It wasn't Howl's Moving Castle, was it?
What do you mean?
Like, when did American theaters start, like, showing Studio Ghibli films?
Relatively recently.
Yeah, because the last one I remember...
Howl's Moving Castle definitely came out in theaters, but that's because Howl's Moving Castle is based on a British book.
Yeah.
So it wasn't... It was more
I remember
accepted.
Ponyo was in theaters, but that seems pretty recent.
Yeah, Ponyo, The Secret World of Ariete.
That was 2014.
Yeah.
Howl's Moving Castle was years before that.
So, funny story that has nothing to do with Kiki's Delivery Service, but when I first saw Secret World of Ariete, me and I think it was my brother, or maybe one of it was my friends, who were like, this movie seems really fucking familiar.
Yeah, because it's the Borrowers.
Yeah, we didn't realize it was like, wait, this is the Borrowers until like a week after we had seen the movie. We're like, this is just the Borrowers! What the Like, we had no idea it was a remake of Borrowers.
I'd never seen The Borrowers when I saw Secret World of Arietti.
Okay.
So for me, I was like, oh, this is cute. And then I looked into it, and it was like, oh, it's based on this movie trilogy from, like, the 80s, The Borrowers.
Yeah, I think I only saw one of them, and it was because my grandma had it at her house kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know how your grandma always had those weird movies that you watch only at her place?
Yeah, my grandma had Volky Zeitz. Pogati.
Right.
That means nothing, I'm sorry.
What movies did your grandma have?
My grandfather was an avid flea market junkie, so all the movies we had at my grandparents' house were like just everything that the generation before me watched, and then some.
Nice.
I had a VHS of The Phantom Menace.
Ooh. Fancy. I used to have the unedited versions of Star Wars on VHS. And those went by the wayside, unfortunately, when VHSs fell out of fashion.
Yeah.
I had a forever unwatched copy of The Last Airbender.
Ooh,
Didn't miss out on anything on that.
Did not miss
garbage.
much. Nope.
But speaking of using things to fly, Kiki's livery service.
What was that transition?
Aang uses a kite to fly, and Kiki uses a broom to
See,
fly.
that's lost on me, because I haven't watched Last Airbender. I haven't
He
seen
also
Avatar
hasn't
either.
seen Atla. at
Oh,
all.
okay. So the main character, Aang, has wind powers, and he has a kite that he uses to fly.
Okay.
That was the transition I was trying to get to back on track, and it completely flopped with one, and it registered with one. So at least,
Man, the man with the anime channel who's never seen Atla.
well, then that goes into the whole argument of, like, is Atla anime, which I say yes.
It's directly inspired by,
Yeah.
so I would count it, but that's not what we're here to discuss.
No, that's a totally different podcast topic.
As we have flown very far from where we are. So,
Hey, Flown, there you go. There's a plug
Woohoo!
for you.
So it's the same dude who did the music for the other two movies.
Joe Hisaishi.
Joe Hisaishi.
He's
yeah.
worked on almost every Studio Ghibli film, hasn't he?
I think so.
Was this
yeah.
one pretty faithful to the original soundtrack?
So according to what I saw, Disney didn't make any major music changes, but apparently there were a few segments of the movie that in the Japanese version remained silent, and Disney did put music in over those segments, like in the background. Also, Gigi's lines have been changed.
Okay.
Yeah, which we'll get into with characters because it completely recontextualizes his character to do that. So it was made in 1989 for Japanese audiences. It's a little under 2 hours long, and its original budget was $6.9 million, and it made $41.8 million. So significantly more than Laputa. Although it's relatively close in age to Laputa, because I think when we looked at Laputa was 86, I believe.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, mid 80s. So this is older than I thought it was. I commented when we started watching, oh, look at that bump in quality, because for some reason I thought Kiki's Delivery Service was from the 2000s.
No, it definitely wasn't. I remember, because, okay, I know it wasn't because I watched it when I was a kid, and I'm considerably older than you are, and I'm not sure, maybe you?
He's older than me.
Just by a little bit.
Yeah, so...
Literal days.
Yeah, so...
11 days to be specific.
Yeah, so I watched Kiki when I was very young, and so it was pre-2000s first time I saw Kiki.
That makes sense. I suppose for me, I have a bad habit of assuming that like all of the Studio Ghibli movies are like 2000s because I didn't start watching them till 2012, I think. 2011 or 2012 was the first time I watched a Studio Ghibli movie. And honestly, I will say though, the Kiki's Delivery Service is a noticeable bump in quality from Laputa.
Yeah, definitely.
Just in terms of the crispness and the detail, especially in the background.
Yeah, definitely. The background paintings are very much more richly detailed and things like that. There's, like you said, a considerable bump in the quality of the production and things like that. The music is very Joe Hisaishi. There's a lot of piano, a lot of violin, which Joe Hisaishi seems to really enjoy. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, character designs are Studio Ghibli designs. Everyone looks exactly the same as someone from another movie, and they have the same mannerisms, the same things like that. There's obviously the Studio Ghibli like touch where There's little things like the scene where Kiki has her map. It's actually she's got a clip on it, and it's wrapped. It's tied around her neck so she doesn't lose her map. Or like when she's running down the street, and she almost trips. She like almost trips and falls because she steps on a pile of leaves. There's stuff like that. That's in every Ghibli film.
Yeah, it was pretty good, but this time it was a little weird to see Totoro just start baking Kiki a cake.
That's mean!
I didn't actually
That was
character.
mean!
I just came up with an example off the top of my head.
Yeah, but the way it sounded made it sound like you were calling the pregnant woman Totoro. That's mean!
Well, she's got a big old belly.
She's not even the one that baked Kiki a cake.
No, it was the old lady.
That's even worse! Holy fucking shit, that's so mean!
That wasn't intentional, legitimately.
Oh my god.
Also, if you ever want to induce labor in a pregnant woman, make her watch A Natural Disaster.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Well, that's what happens! She sees a Zeppelin crash into a building and she's like, whoop, shit, water broke, gotta head to the hospital.
Oh, Lordy, it's coming.
Also, did you like how the husband only has, she only says, 6 words total in the entire film?
He has a very expressive face and set of movements.
No, he does, definitely, but I think it's funny that, I think the first time he talks is, in the 3rd act, and he's there for almost the entire movie.
Oh, very much so. Speaking of acts, this is a lot better paced than Lapida.
Yeah, Lapida was very breakneck speed, and Kiki doesn't really have much of a plot. It's very slice of life.
It's a coming-of-age story.
It really is, and she's 13. It's a
Yeah.
coming-of-age story for a 13-year-old. I mean, you're peaking a little early there, honey, but I mean, I'm not going to judge you.
Well, a 13-year-old in an industrializing Sweden-esque country, which, when you think about the Industrial Revolution, there was actually... that's when child labor laws were introduced because, especially in Britain, during the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, a lot of children, as soon as they turned old enough to work factory machines, were employed at factories, and that's where we get child labor laws. So it does kind of make sense that someone that young.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I definitely get that, but it's very unclear when this takes place because there's cars from the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah.
There's technology from the 60s. There's fashion from the 80s even.
Not too much. The fashion is very 50s. A lot of it.
It's very 50s and 60s, but
Yeah.
there are some people in the background you can look at. It's that is a fucking outfit from the 80s. That is that lady stepped out of a fucking Jason Voorhees movie.
Yeah, I will say that if I had to ascribe this with a kind of comparative time period, I would say that this, I think, most closely leans towards the 50s when you consider everything, because if you think about dirigibles, right? Dirigibles were basically out of fashion by the 50s to 60s, but they were popular before that, and then the fashions are very 40s, late 40s, 50s. So I would put it somewhere, at least if I had to pick an era, but it's also Ghibli, and it's just loosely inspired by these things.
Well,
so I honestly
think, a lot of the Studio Ghibli movies, their aesthetic of the time period is also very samey, and I think it's just because that's kind of what Hayao Miyazaki likes. There's always some kind of aircraft in all Studio Ghibli movies.
Of course,
because
he
likes
flying.
planes.
Yeah. Porco Rosso.
Clearly,
Porco Rosso. It's one of Miyazaki's movies. It's one of his biggest passion projects. It's the flying pig from World War II.
Sure,
Porco
why
Rosso.
not? Why not? The only movie that I like off the top of my head that I think doesn't have a thing with flying is Princess Mononoke, and arguably Spirited Away.
Yeah, but she flies on Haku.
Yeah, but flying machines.
Yeah, no flying machines. But Spirited Away is also very much traditional Japanese kind of folklore-ish. Whereas things like Howl's Moving Castle and Lapita and this are very more European inspired, and just this ambiguous time somewhere between the Industrial Revolution and the 50s.
Yeah.
to 60s. The fashion, I admit, does skew kind of all over the fucking place. But at least if you look at, like, the cars and the technology, you can really kind of jam it somewhere between the start of the Industrial Revolution and, like, the 50s. But
Except
leaning
for the
more
handheld
towards,
radio.
yeah, leaning more towards, like, the 20s to the 50s. Because it's after Model Ts.
Yeah, there are certain things with the technology, though, that kind of...
Except for Hal. Hal uses Model Ts. Okay, never mind. The House Moving Castle, they have Model T.S cars. And so does Laputa, but then this one has later period cars.
Yeah, it's I don't know, the time frame of when exactly these takes place is really screwy, but it's all fictional, fantasy, European city or town or country or whatever, you know, all of the above.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, we're sitting here trying to, like, figure out, like, a time period. There isn't really one. It's fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like fantasy, but fantasy nonetheless. Are you awake over there?
Yeah, like,
You're just, like, stone silent this entire conversation. You alright, bro?
I'm fine. I'm like 5 topics back and over on this screen here. But
Oh, it's because we ventured out of the realm of the places where Knick Knack is comfortable conversing.
Okay. Well,
not comfortable, just not.
Keeping up with the comparisons. No, that makes sense. We did go a little
Yeah.
deep cut.
Funny story about this movie, though, is a good friend of mine. She told me that she always wanted to see this movie when she was a kid, but her family members, can't say which ones exactly, but they were like, you can't watch that because it's about witches. It's got witches in it, and you can't watch that. And obviously so when she finally did watch it, she would just kind of her reaction was like, that's it?
Yeah.
Because she was expecting something horrible, witchcrafty thing.
Bubble,
it's just
bubble, toil, and trouble.
yeah, it's like, nah, it's just some chick on a broom.
She doesn't even use a broom all the time.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, the only witch things that you can really, like...
It's the mom in the beginning.
Yeah,
Well, I suppose if someone watched the movie...
That's more like alchemy, almost, like science and things like that.
Yeah,
But, like, the most, like, witchy things that happen in this is she's got a black cat and she flies on a broom, and that's it.
Yeah, that's true. The black cat's so cute. We stand Gigi.
Sure. Gigi's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, Gigi's cool.
Gigi's basically just Calcifer with less importance to the plot.
At least in the English, yeah.
Yeah. But that's more of a character discussion, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. What are we talking about right now?
Production quality, art, animation, music. The music is great. We talked about the composer, but like this more so than Laputa actually has an opening song and an ending song, right, with lyrics and everything.
Yeah.
Like a proper anime OP and ED. I actually thought they were tonally very appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music was fun. I enjoyed it. It's not anything I'd really... It's definitely not the big standouts from Studio Ghibli movies, but it's got a nice soundtrack.
Yeah, I think the regular soundtrack isn't necessarily anything special. I do really like the OP and ED, but like the normal music is just kind of picturesque and cute and quaint and slice of life. Which makes sense because this movie is picturesque and cute and quaint and slice of life.
Yeah, it's very much, yeah, it's just kind of Kiki's story. There's no big antagonist. Like, there's no antagonist. There's no plot or anything like that in, like, the third act. Was it, like, the act where everything goes wrong and horrible and everything. Like, it's about Kiki doubting herself.
I gotta say, I thought the third act was extremely weak.
Yeah. Well, because it has to, like, raise the stakes so she, like, becomes the hero, and it's like, well, that guy you kind of know is in danger.
Like, everything
you don't
kind of
even really
happens
know
at
him that
once
well.
with no build-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time just like being with Kiki.
And those are the best parts of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
which
for
is
sure.
weird, which is like the scenes where you think like this is gonna be the boringest part, where it's just Kiki doing her like 9-to-5 job.
It's actually really interesting.
Yeah, it's actually the most interesting part of the story because it's like her meeting weird people and going on deliveries, which is the whole point of the story.
And I'd kind of hoped the plot line would have carried on being more, not character drama, but sort of Kiki interacting with people.
Mm-hmm.
And it started to do that, and then that gets into story.
Had you seen Kiki's delivery
No.
service? Oh!
This is your first time seeing it?
Yeah.
Okay. So overall, what did you think as a new viewer?
Yeah, because we are both.
Yeah, this
Well,
is a retro. This is a
yeah.
very, very retro view for me.
It's alright. It was cute.
Like, I haven't seen this since I was in, like, maybe single digits age-wise, but still.
I showed this to Quinn on my other podcast channel as well, and I've definitely watched it at least 3 or 4 times on my own in the last, like, 4 or 5 years. This is one of those movies that I often go back to, and I don't necessarily always pay the most attention, but sometimes it's nice in the background.
Yeah, it was cute.
That's
Probably
cute.
not one of my favorite Ghibli films, but it was cute.
I mean, it is... of all the Ghibli films that we have potentially lined up for the channel, right? This is the lowest stakes. We're going to talk about this more in the next segment, but Ghibli movies often have, like, deeper meanings and stuff like that. This does, but not in the same way. Like, this is not a high-stakes message about society or the world. It's coming of age.
Let's be honest here. A lot of Ghibli movies is Miyazaki getting on a soapbox.
See, I didn't mind the low stakes, though. I think it's just, it ultimately comes down to the fact that it didn't, like, it felt like, not that the message was undermined, but the message got real confused with, as it started to try to thematically wrap up the story.
I almost feel like this movie is like a representation of when Miyazaki was feeling burnout. Because when he was, like, considering retiring or quitting or things like that, because, like, there's that whole thing where it's like, oh, well, sometimes you just can't make anything, you can't, like, be creative, or you can't do anything with your life, and you have to, like, decompress and process and, like, find a way to, like, get that passion back in your life kind of thing. The
But
pep
in
talk.
1989?
I mean, who the hell knows? The guy's been depressed for a very long time.
Yeah, that man has retired more than
That's-
anyone else in the industry.
That's true.
Yeah.
He's retired, like, 7 times.
So, I don't
He
know,
very
maybe this
well
is
could
one
have
of those
been
moments.
ready to be done at Poco Rosso.
Okay, never mind. I wasn't thinking about that. I was just
Just
looking.
remember, this is the man who famously, like, quoted as saying anime is a mistake.
The second person famously quoted. I'm making a joke. I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
I put in Giga did a history of AniTube, and he just anime was AniTube was a mistake.
I'm pretty sure that is
2020.
a reference to
to
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki's.
There's an interview with Miyazaki where he just says that. He's like, yeah, the anime is a fucking mistake.
Understandable. Have a day.
Yeah, well.
I'm sure he had a day. I guess we get to move on to story and character now.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, I've got
I feel
nothing
like-
else to say other than...
I feel like we're verging on it.
Yeah.
Wanting to touch on it.
Because, unfortunately, there's not really a lot to talk about
No, this is
Kiki story-wise or, like, animation-wise. Animation-wise, it's fine.
It's solid.
There's nothing wrong with it. There was no points where I'm like, oh, that looks bad or anything
Wasn't
like
there a
that.
part in the localization where someone noticed that one of the signs is written in English?
Oh, I did.
Yes,
Japanese.
yeah.
So first of all, there's a bus with Ghibli written on it, shown twice. But second of all, the bread thing that says Kiki's Delivery Service. The first time we see
bread
it,
thing? The sign in the window.
yeah, it's made of bread.
It's not made of bread. It's,
Yeah, it is.
what? It's not.
It's made of bread.
Prove it.
We'll be right back.
This part's getting cut out where she's looking this up.
Watch it not.
Just to spite me. You know, I'm gonna derail this. Okay, so here's an interesting thing: that if you play KOTOR 1, that's Knights of the Old Republic, you get some really fascinating things. Because I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. Not sure about you, man.
Oh, big one.
But so one of the most fascinating things that I notice is that if you have conversations with certain Jedi or individuals who are Force sensitive, they talk about how what happens when you study the dark side of the Force is that essentially what it does is it expands your mind as to how the Force, how the universe is held together and like the actual like inner workings of just energy and life and things
Well,
like
that's
that.
how they springboard off into the KOTOR 2 at the wound in the Force thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, what that essentially means to me is that, like, basically what it does is that by expanding your mind and you understanding more of how the universe works, is it inevitably drives you mad in a very Lovecraftian horror kind of thing. And that's what drives you to the dark side, is that it makes you go mad, and then you just have to know more and more and more and more.
Yep. The sign is made out of bread.
Okay, what source?
It's a fucking...
What's the source, though?
the
Because
DVD
that
set.
sign is going to smell like shit after a week.
They refresh it.
That's cool, Senator. Can I get a source?
The fucking It's a bread sign. Literally everyone agrees it's a bread sign.
I'm not the one that's disputing that. I believe you.
I just want to know the source of this.
The source is probably the movie at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand it's a bakery, but still, it's a little.
I mean, you're not gonna. I don't think this is a controversial topic, so you're not gonna have an interview with Miyazaki coming out saying, "Yes, the sign is made of bread."
No. If I ever meet Miyazaki, I'm gonna ask him, "What is that sign made out of? Is it made of bread?"
Bread was a mistake.
No, he's probably gonna look at me. It's like, "Who the fuck are you? Get out of my house!" Like, can't be any worse than what he said about his son. Because man, that was harsh. Anyway. What are we talking about? Bread?
Yes.
You got a favorite kind of bread? Like, when you make a sandwich, what kind of bread do you usually go for?
Part of it's just because it's the one we use the most at my family's house because my brother had an addiction to it. But I'm a big fan of sourdough.
Yeah, I can see that. Do you like just straight up sourdough or like toasted sourdough, anything like that?
I like using sourdough with others. I like good like toasted sourdough and homemade sourdough. I like that just fine. But like,
nice.
You get to like you use it for other stuff. Like you start making like garlic breads with it.
I've never made garlic bread with sourdough.
It's a little bit crunchy.
Okay. I do not have enough time to find a source on this, but every single article online agrees that it's made of bread. Because it's showing off both the bakery and the bakery skills, and Kiki.
I made it the fuck. I'm kidding.
It's made of fucking bread, okay? It's bread.
Arguably made of bread.
Bread.
Arguably. See, this is one of those things I'm going to bring up like a week later, and she's going to get so fucking mad at me because I just won't let it go.
It's made of fucking bread!
Arguably.
Vote in the comments. Is it made of bread? Yes or no? What were we talking about before we went on the bread team?
That basically
Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah, we were talking.
No.
Do you want to talk about Knights of the Old Republic?
No.
I'm going through Knights of the Old Republic 2 right now. It's freaking amazing.
I never actually know the finish. The combat's always a bit of a barrier to this. I only know the lore of the stories.
Yeah, it's a problem. See, we're just trying to get her to cut this out now, and we know that she's probably going to leave it in. Ah! I think what we were. I think
fucking bird.
I think honestly, what we were saying was that there's not really much we can say about story-wise because it's a pretty simple story, and the animation is solid. The music's
Well, we
good.
haven't gotten to the story segment yet. That's bundled with characters.
Well, it's hard to
Next
talk about the
video.
story without really going into the characters.
That's what we were saying. Is that like there's not you can't really talk about the story because there's not much of a story.
The animation's solid. Ghibli food. The bread is Ghibli food.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that bread is ridiculous.
It looks so good.
It's like a loaf of bread that's like the size of like a desk.
I could not eat that much bread before it went bad. No. But with that being said, we'll see you next time.
You're looking at the. You're not looking at the camera.
From the person who has been staring this way the whole time.
So
because both of you are right there.
So this film didn't have much of like a story without spoilers that you can talk about, but you know it does have a story that you can talk about without spoiling it.